Smith? I love the Smiths.
Sorry?
I said I love the Smiths. You've good taste in music.
You like the Smiths?
Yeah.
Love is an interesting thing to try and grasp. Can you really fall in love at first sight? If not, how long must you know someone to truly be capable of falling in love? There's this idea that people bring up of limerence. It develops almost instantly when you're attracted to someone. It doesn't require any deeper understanding of the person to exist, as it views the person as the perfect entity that can solve all desires and needs, sexual or otherwise. Before the internet, it makes sense that limerence would happen pretty often, as it was a lot harder to communicate with other people. In the film Before Sunrise, two strangers, a young French woman and an American tourist that is returning home, meet on a train and develop an intense infatuation with each other over the course of a single night. When the next day rolls around, each person has to leave to pursue their own life, but the burning passion remains, and they each feel very strongly for each other and long to meet again. In a situation like this, the scarcity of contact can easily result in a sort of limerence developing over the weeks and months following such an encounter. Imagining this distant lover as some ideal human, whom only if he or she was nearby, all problems and hardships would be nullified. With the ease of communication, be it texting, calling, video chats, and everything else, you'd think limerence like this wouldn't exist nowadays. As if you meet or see some girl, you'd have ample opportunity to talk to her and connect to her on a deeper level. This difficulty of communication that created this air of mystery that allowed the mind to conjure this idea of the perfect partner simply wouldn't exist anymore. And yet, this isn't the case. Limerence still exists everywhere, and especially so for men. If anything, the internet hasn't helped this issue, it's only exacerbated it. Nowadays, it's not only a man idealizing the girl from the train with whom he spent one evening with, but women he's seen online that he's never even talked to, never mind having a proper conversation with them. But how did we get to this point? And why is this even bad in the first place? Any product that is being bought or sold works on the grounds of supply and demand. For a product or service to exist, there must be a demand for it, and in turn, the supply is provided. And with the onset of the internet, loneliness is becoming more and more of an issue as young people, especially young men, become increasingly atomized and alone. This is why a lot of overtly sexual Twitch streamers and OnlyFans girls have amassed such a following. Of course, there is an attraction from these men that incentivizes them to engage with the content that these women produce. But it is also much more than that. With Twitch having its chat feature, and donations oftentimes being read out loud by an AI, and OnlyFans allowing men to message these girls whom they pay to see naked, this allows for much more than sexual gratification. It means that, for the man, he feels like some sort of connection is being formed. Of course, the reality is that these girls don't view these men in the same way at all. For the girls, these are simply paying customers. These men desire female companionship, and through the internet, these women provide a virtual imitation of this. The problems with this are many. A very blatant one being that a lot of the time, these OnlyFans girls will get other people to message these men for them, completely destroying the facade of a relationship. But beyond this surface level criticism, the reason these men desire companionship is a very obvious biological one. They want to get close to a woman and get to know her so that they can determine whether or not she would make a suitable mother, and if she does, to subsequently have children with her. And what comes of these parasocial relationships? Nothing of the sort. It is a band-aid on a much larger wound. The reason limerence works so well for these types of women is precisely because of the scarcity of contact, as mentioned previously. They're not going to be meeting these men or calling them. At most, it will be a very staggered conversation through text or having their donation read out on a stream. The men don't know these women at all, and so they project the idealized woman onto them. They have an idea of how a woman should look and act, and they fit these women that they have no real connection with into this mold. And of course, most men aren't in parasocial relationships, but with the rise of online dating, exactly the same thing is being enabled. It's pretty obvious that if a girl isn't interested in you, she will reply to your messages a lot slower and a lot less. And if this is your only method of communication, like how it is on dating apps, or even later through Snapchat or WhatsApp, then this again allows for limerence to form. If you're reasonably attracted to a girl and you haven't actually interacted with her enough for your brain to process her as a human that's just like you, then your brain will instead make her out to be the idealized partner. The bottom line of all of this is that it is much easier to fall in love with the idea of someone rather than the actual person herself. Because to love the person, you must accept her faults, but to love the idea simply means affirming your own perception of the perfect partner. This isn't a preferable way of approaching dating, and unfortunately with the growing number of celibate men who struggle to talk to women, it will only continue to proliferate. So how is it exactly that we can begin to amend this issue? I'm going to be honest, on a macro scale, I've got no idea. The best advice that I can give to any guy that struggles with limerence or talking to women is to stay away from the apps. Dating apps heighten all the worst and most brutal aspects of mate selection, especially for women, and will leave the vast majority of both parties unsatisfied for one reason or another. Instead, trying to build a social circle through school or work or some sort of hobby club is a much better idea, as it allows your brain to view the woman as a friend and a person first. Of course, there is also a huge dilemma that might arise from these sorts of situations. If you ask a girl from your social circle out and get rejected, it will very likely sour relationships between you and the girl, and possibly even damage your relationship with the whole group, thus poisoning the well. Another good alternative that completely circumvents the poisoning of the well issue, especially in cities, is to approach girls that you don't know in public places, like parks, coffee shops, libraries, and so on. The so-called cold approach means that even if you are rejected, it leaves virtually no damage on your reputation or social life. If you visit certain places where you have an idea that the women there have similar interests to you, it's even better, as it fosters an immediate bond between you based on your like-minded hobbies. The reason that this eliminates limerence for the most part is that you get to see the girl in person first. You'll see her going about her day, just like you are, and it helps your brain ground her and view her as just another normal person. I'm not a dating expert or a pickup artist or anything of the sort, but these are just some methods that I would recommend to anyone, but especially guys, that struggle with developing strong feelings of limerence towards girls they'll very likely have no future with. It's all easier said than done. But remember, you must be foolish and incompetent in virtually everything you do before you gain any sort of skill or knowledge in it. So just keep it in mind when things get tough.